Hi there. Hello. A little while ago, I made a video about Sugarfoot Bonner of the Ohio Players, how much I love Sugarfoot Bonner, how much I loved his solo album that Roger produced, and how much I love Ohio Players, and how I discovered them, which was via a song called It Takes a While from this album, Tenderness from 1981.
Let your brother do it wrong. Oh, oh. Try to help him along. Send him right on home. 'Cause it takes a while. Oh, oh. Whoa, 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 baby.
Ow! Well. I fell in love with him head over heels. The way he looked sitting there on a chair with his big afro covering one of the eyes, and his guitar playing, and especially his singing. I was totally lost. I loved Sugar, and I still do. And I'm thinking, maybe to you Americans, that's kind of strange. Why would she discover Ohio Players in 1981 when they were at the end of their career and not in the 70s when they were really having a lot of hits and were popular? And I can tell you that the reason for that is that I live in Sweden. And in Sweden, in those days, I was born in 1966, and I was 15 when I bought my first Ohio Players album. We didn't have what you have. We didn't have free radio. There were no commercial stations in Sweden, and there were no commercial radio stations, and there were no commercial TV stations. We had two TV stations, TV1 and TV2, and they rarely showed any funk or soul or anything of that kind, and they were state controlled. The government controlled them, but it was sort of like for the people, by the people kind of thing, and the people here weren't funky. Well, the politicians had control over it. And the same story for the three national radio stations we had. Same thing there, the government controlled it, the state controlled it. We had no free radio station, no commercial stations, no commercial TV, no commercial radio, and we did not see anything like Soul Train or even what they had in Holland or the UK. They had shows where these types of artists could perform. We had nothing of the sort. It was totally controlled. The way you could hear funk and R&B and soul in Sweden, where there was one option once a week on the state-controlled radio station, a guy with a very journalistic kind of approach. He played funk and soul for 1 hour, but he made it like a presentation of these artists. They've made this now and the story behind it and so on. He did that for 1 hour, and he played each song only once. Only once. It wasn't a radio show. It's more like a journalistic presentation. So, and the next week, 10 new songs. So if you missed an episode, you may have missed that somebody released something. And the other way you could hear it were in the big cities, like in Stockholm and Malmo. There were pirate stations, but they were you didn't know when they were going to broadcast and so on. But they really, really played this music, which not the state didn't do. And there was also community radio, which I later did. They also played this kind of music, but this was for the big cities. So if you go outside Stockholm or Gothenburg or Malmo, a lot of people never heard this kind of music because they weren't exposed to it. But I heard this one, thank God. It Takes a While. And by then, at that time, I didn't know anything about what soul or R&B or funk was. I just liked it. I liked the way he sang. I liked the guitar solo. I didn't know what they looked like at this time. And I went out trying to find this record. Many times, these were not issued in Sweden or in Europe. So you had to go to special shops that dealt with imports. And if you were lucky, they had a record. If you could order it, it was rare. It was more like you had to be there at the right time to pick up the record that you wanted. So to get things that were just a couple of months old was really hard. To get things that were even older than that was even harder. But that was before cutouts started making it, but that's another story. And now, years later, I'm glad to say that there's a reissue of it. and it's been released by a label called Iconoclassic. Iconoclassic, and it's marvelous. Not only is the sound quality just extremely good, is you hear the songs like you never heard them before. This is straight from the master tapes, and also what is extremely good about it are the liner notes. The liner notes features an interview with Merv, and some parts of an interview that I actually did with Sugarfoot Bonner in 1988. And Sugar told me that this was his all-time favorite album, that he had a lot of say-so, or all say-so on this one. So it's extra nice that this is out on CD. Now, the liner notes, you have to read them. It tells the story of the album. It tells the story of Ohio Players. It's a wonderful piece of work. It's actually an essay. And I want to give props to my friend Scott Galloway, who wrote the liner notes, because they are terrific. They're just terrific. So this one is out. I think it came out in 2022. So if you haven't got it, I think you should get it. It's a wonderful album, an overlooked one. It's actually a classic that I hope Sugar will have what he said, that one day people will discover what a great album this was. And I hope that time is now.